things that I liked about camp were that we got to play the Stomadium game, which was a lot of fun, and we got to learn about science and baseball. At camp, I learned about the strike zone and the most efficient ways to run bases. I also learned about how baseball bats and baseballs themselves were made, and how you can customize your bat so that it's just right for you. Kids my age should go to this camp and play Stomadium app because it gives them a chance to learn more about science and baseball and to have a lot of fun.
The strike zone is measured by your height and the plate's width. The plate is 17 inches wide, and my height in between my chest and my knees in stride is 26 inches. And the area of this strike zone is 442 inches. So I'm going to throw a pitch into the strike zone. On the corner.
What I like about this camp is how they combined science and math to make it fun by combining it with baseball. What I learned from this camp is the science behind baseball and the math behind baseball. Why would I recommend this to other kids my age is because they can get to learn about science and math behind baseball, but in a fun way.
Hello, and I'm gonna experiment which sports ball bounces the highest and what that is called elasticity. So now I'm gonna drop the first soccer ball.
One of the ways that children benefit from learning STEM is by learning reasoning, the reasoning skill. Reasoning is like coming to a solution when there's a big problem, so like agreeing on something together.
We're going to teach you some yoga.
Bam! Anyway, today I'll be answering questions about logos.
It wants us to hold it and then boom.
This is my flip grid baseball stadium design.
The strike zone is where the umpire causes strikes in your zone.
And from my letters to my knees, I have 24 inches. And from my width, I have 10. And when you multiply 24 times 10, you get 240 inches.
The second skill is teamwork. Teamwork is very important because when you have people trying to get to the same accomplishment as you need to learn to work together with those people to create a bigger and more beautiful thing of the cure or whatever you're trying to do.
What does it take to make a successful logo? Well, I think it has to be appealing to the eye, has to have a pop of color, has to, the person wants to look at the logo.
When I grow up, I want to be a computer engineer because at school I take a class and only 4 people are in, and I took a test to get in and I passed it with a 95.
The nearest park to me is D-Horse Park, which is 9.5 miles away. And to get from there to Dodger Stadium would be 11.5 miles away. So altogether it'd be 21 miles away from my house or where I live, perhaps.
And the third skill they learn is investigative. Investigative is very useful in this field because then you become observant of how the problem started and how to finish it.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everyone to the Breakfast of Champions virtual benefit, and thank you all for joining. Sports can be an incredible textbook and laboratory to help students get excited about education. When students are able to use real-world examples that go beyond the traditional way of learning, we can make learning fun and engaging while also helping improve students' academics. Take me for example. I was a student who struggled with getting excited about learning at school, but loved literally everything sports related. If I had been given a math or a science problem to solve that was in the context of the sport, and it focused on launching balls at various angles to find which one would make the travel the furthest distance, I would have been hitting home runs not just on the field, but also with my grades. Sports has a way to bring communities together, regardless if it's a youth sports team or a professional sports team. Our communities have been thrown a curveball this past year, and schools are adapting daily to the best way to engage with students. And teachers have had to completely pivot to a new way of teaching, while students and parents are digitally burned out. Now is the time to help students improve their academics but also help provide school programs with the necessary resources to succeed. Science of Sport is all about this, and we hope to not just make champions on the field, but to build champions in the classroom. And we do this by bringing communities together all throughout the country, whether that's professional sports teams, renowned university STEM professors, school districts, and teachers, all working together towards a unified goal: to help youth improve academically. Students in the United States placed 38th out of 71 countries in math and 24th in science performance. A majority of the jobs in the next decade will focus on STEM skills, and only 3% of minority women and 12% of minority men were awarded engineering degrees this past year. To address these issues, there is an increased need for programming that focuses on project-based learning, which helps students with creativity, innovation, problem solving, and leadership. So today we want to recognize some of those champions that have participated in our programs throughout this past year, and to hear from some of the best champions and athletes in the game on how they have been able to use sports to help them succeed in their communities and in the classroom.
Science, technology, engineering, and math have been at the cornerstone of Science of Sport from the beginning. We focus specifically on numeracy among students. That's the ability to make decisions with data. Partnerships have been a critical ingredient to our success. Our first partnership was with the Arizona Diamondbacks starting in 2013. And since that time, we've been able to scale the program statewide to impact tens of thousands of students and thousands of teachers. The program has been a win-win-win for everyone. It's a win for students because they have hands-on learning opportunities. It's a win for teachers and schools because it gets their kids engaged in real-world applications of STEM. And it's a win for corporate sponsors and baseball teams because they're able to impact the community in a meaningful and sustainable way. The importance of focusing on middle school and elementary school students is motivated by the idea of upstream thinking. So rather than waiting for them to get to high school or college to join the science of baseball, we want to get them as early as possible so that they haven't quite decided whether or not they like math and science. This gives us tremendous leverage and also allows us to impact a larger number of students. The pandemic has created an opportunity for us to expand our offerings to support virtual learning. From digital worksheets to multimedia videos, and now in the future, an app where we can demonstrate the real-world application and the gamification of our materials. One example is the New York Knicks Science of Basketball curriculum, which we created for digital consumption. And this has led to creating not just better students, but also better athletes. Thanks for supporting the Science of Sport.
Through our summer camps and after-school programs, Science of Sport has been able to offer fun camps for youth to improve their academics and athletics. At these camps, students spend half of the day in the classroom and half of the day out on the field, which is a perfect mixture to help students improve their academics to avoid summer learning loss. The MLB Youth Academies are one of the locations that we offer this program, and one student who has been a champion in the classroom has been Kayla, a 6th grade student from our Compton MLB Youth Academy camp. Let's hear from Kayla on how this program has made an impact on her.
So the Science of Sports have allowed me to do so much. We were able to visit the Angel Stadium and present an amazing project that we were also able to do during our class time. And during that project, we were able to learn about the biomechanics and like the angles and the structure of the simple task of swinging or throwing a ball. So I'm really grateful. Baseball is more than just hitting or throwing the ball or catching it. It's more of science. My confidence has grown a lot, and in school I've always been more shy, but the sports of science has taught me that there's so much more. So the project we did was a project that really went in depth on not only the sports of science, but like the STEM and like the whole purpose of it.
Oh my goodness, it is probably, if I were to say, this is probably the most valuable thing that they're doing here at the Academy. I say that for two reasons. One, because this is the one and only time when they come to Major League Baseball Youth Academy here in Compton, and they spend 5 hours with us at this facility. There is no other time when kids can come to this academy and spend this much time with us, where we get to know them in a way where not the coaches or the softball coaches, they do not get the opportunity to really get to know them and intermingle with them and learn them more as players and people rather than just athletes out there on the field. Hopefully, we are teaching some things that they can take away from this academy that they can take throughout the rest of their lives. That's our goal. We're trying to teach them to be better people, have better character, and understand that their grades, which is the student component of the student-athlete stuff, that they understand that is probably the most invaluable part of what they do in school. Not just the athlete part, but being a student first, athlete second, putting that together, becoming a student athlete. So we try to drill that as much as possible into their heads to let them know that if you're going to be a success, baseball, football, basketball, all of those sports or games will come to an end, but your education will take you through the rest of your lives. You have to be prepared to treat every child differently. You cannot assume that you can treat them all the same. You must treat them individually as they want to be treated and make them actually be seen to the point where they now feel like they're valued. And my goal is to make sure every child that comes past me understands that I see you, I understand what you need, and I'm going to do my best to possibly help you. You know what I would say? I would say I have learned throughout the last 3 years via Science of Baseball, just doing the summer camp and doing the things that I've been doing with the Science of Sport. It is probably the most valuable thing that we can teach here, because most of our young children are believing in what they've been taught from home, which is the fact that you can grow up and become a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can become the basic police officer, all those things. But as far as the science, the technologies, the engineering, and the mathematic components that they need to know about, that's what was missing. And when we add that to them now, just like there are parents now who are having kids coming home with all of this new information, it's coming via the STEM component that we add here at the Academy. It's new information, it's stuff that makes them think bigger and makes them dream bigger as well. I have never seen parents so happy than at this camp. I have received so many emails. I have so many parents who walk up to me at the end of the day and say, Coach Rocky, you're amazing at what you're doing with these kids. And me, I just do what I do.
Because he sounds more confident now. Like, he told me the other day that he's gonna be in pro and we're gonna be watching him in the stands. Now, he never even talked like that before in any other, so I was kind of shocked. I'm clicking like, oh, okay, that's phenomenal that you're really proud for this, and I'm happy for you. So I'm happy I found something that he really likes.
What I learned from camp is I learned about launch angle and flight trajectory and how stadiums are built. And I had a lot of fun at camp, and I hope I get to do it again.
Fourth skill is creativity. When children go to STEM, they learn creativity. Creativity is very important because you must be able to imagine the impossible, and imagining the impossible is possible.
It's 29.5 inches tall and, of course, 17 inches wide. And the total area is 501.5 inches squared.
Engineering process. The engineering process is very important because it tells you how to basically solve problems, and that's all I have now.
The 6 skills. 6 skills are collaboration, communication, research, problem solving, critical thinking, creativity.
My favorite part was designing your own roster, stadium, and logo. I really enjoyed making my own logos and jerseys and hats on the computer, and making my own roster by looking at the salaries under $100 billion. And then your own stadium, you could have whatever you want, because if you ever went to a stadium and said it'd be really cool if they had that there, you could do that.
Welcome everyone to our Breakfast of Champions Elite Athlete Panel, hosted by Science of Sport. Science of Sport is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to developing curriculum and programming that promotes STEM. Our goal of raising $100,000 will provide students with resources they need to grow both athletically and academically. And today's Breakfast of Champions virtual benefit gives you all the opportunity to make a donation and, more importantly, make a difference in the upcoming generation. We would like to take a moment to thank our supporters and pre-event donors. Without you, none of this would be possible. If you haven't already, join us in making a difference. Please make a contribution and help us provide local schools with the resources they need to continue building champions in their classrooms. Your financial gifts allow us to provide teachers with STEM activity boxes for their classrooms and students with comprehensive workbooks, classroom materials, and equal access for the learning opportunities for the upcoming school year. Now, let's welcome national sports host, broadcaster, and play-by-play announcer Shane Bacon to the stage.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and hello everyone. Welcome to the Breakfast of Champions Athlete Panel. By supporting this unique fundraising event and with your generous donation, you will all be supporting over 500,000 local teachers and students that Science of Sport provides learning materials and sports-based curriculum to. Join us in building champions of the classroom through sport and creating opportunities in STEM for the upcoming generation. And speaking of champions, we have some extremely talented athletes with us today who are excited to share their stories on how sport have impacted them in the classroom, community, and in their families. I'd first like to introduce Jessica McDonald of the North Carolina Courage and National Women's Soccer League, Michael Davis of the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers, Gabrielle Argis, an IBJJF world champion and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Natasha Watley, a two-time USA softball Olympic medalist, three-time world champion, and the driving force behind the Natasha Watley Foundation, Nico Hansen, a Danish footballer and forward for the Major League Soccer's Houston Dynamo FC, Lauren Frederick, a Rio Beach volleyball Olympian, 10-time tournament champion, three-time AVP best blocker, and World Championship silver medalist. Zach Penprass, a member of the Israel Olympic baseball team who will compete in the 2021 Summer Olympics. Casey Patterson, named USAV Team of the Year, AVP Team of the Year, AVP Best Offensive Player, and a BYU alum. And last but not least, Roger Sloan, a PGA Tour Canada champion and one who has spent plenty of time in his career on the PGA Tour. Sports have been at the forefront of a lot of hot topic issues, and I just wanted to ask what you've all been up to the last 90 days.
I guess I've just been working on myself, working as a team, obviously. We're in the season right now. We're still trying to figure out who we are as a team.
The last 90 days, gosh, there's been a multitude of things that have been happening. It went from Olympic qualification for me, competing in my first tournament postpartum, winning it, to complete shutdown, was about to get on a flight the night that things shut down.
The last 90 days have actually been pretty cool. Probably the first 90 days that I've actually been able to be home for 90 days straight. But just same thing, like focusing on self. How can I improve myself? How can I be a better person to serve others? And just trying to really just see what else is out there in the world outside of softball.
I'm also just trying to help out in our community here best I can, especially for the kids who only rely on their school lunch meals and they're not able to get it. And so I've been trying to obviously help out with that, because it makes me really sad, like me being a mom. Like if that was my kid, I do everything I can. So that's exactly what I want to do for the other kids.
Yeah, Gabrielle, I wanted to ask you, I mean, on the other side of things, we're talking team sport, you know, more of an individual sport, and what you have done. What has the year been like for you?
Yeah, well, it's been obviously very challenging. My main goal this year was to defend my World Championship title. So when that got canceled, the uncertainty was so big whether we're gonna have a tournament or not. So I had to stay somewhat ready, you know. So we didn't know when the tournament would be announced, if it was gonna be announced. So on my personal side of my career, I was trying to stay somewhat ready. At first, just like biking and doing stuff by myself to stay in shape. And then by the end of the year, so the last 90 days, I was just waiting on that confirmation or not where it's going to have the World Championship. So resuming and ramping back the training with my teammates, even though it's an individual sport, you need each other to get ready. You know, you can't really just get ready by yourself. And I've been doing that, just helping my teammates and trying to stay somewhat ready for next season, because I think that's when things can start resuming for me.
Yeah, Nico, I just wanted to hear from you and just kind of give a look at the last, month and a half, 2 months of not just, sports, but how you've been dealing with everything that we've seen in this world.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the middle of the season. I just got done about a week ago. So we were dealing with traveling and testing every other day. And I know it's been a different time for sure. I mean, I think everybody's been saying it's been the craziest of years. But for me, it's just been how can I flip to the positive of anything that's going on, and how can you stay positive with the things that are going on?
Obviously, this year we've seen disruptions in scheduling. The Olympics were planned to be played in 2020, and then it's obviously been moved to 2021. What has it been like for you, just preparing and stopping and preparing again for a huge event like an Olympic Games?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for that. It's been a roller coaster like everybody else. I think my last 90 days I've been spending kind of fighting for our youth. I'm a big youth advocate, and I know sports is kind of being taken away from some of our youth. And I'm also a mindset coach, so kind of helping the younger generation with where they're at mentally, and understanding that sports really does help pretty much everybody. And so then now I got to use it on myself. And so preparing and then stopping, and then now, we're going to prepare again. Hopefully that the Olympics comes back in July of this next year, and just kind of figuring out how to train, unorthodox, and finding different ways to train, working on that mental game.
A fun roller coaster for me the last 90 days as far as my focus on, sport and having that be our lives in general. I think everybody's been kind of put into this like sense of shock in a way. We're like, whoa, what's going on? But luckily I have 4 kids, so I was focused on helping them with school, help developing their love for different types of sports, and then a lot of cross training, because our beaches were all the nets were all taken down at all the beaches, and there wasn't really opportunity to play. So it was kind of just, help my kids fall in love with any game that they're into, and then at the same time, really work on my, since I could, my mental game.
Yeah, Michael, I wanted to touch on this with you because you're in a real unique position. I mean, your team was highlighted on a show during a lot of what we've seen throughout the year. I mean, if you watch Hard Knocks on television, you had a chance to kind of see what day-to-day looked like for teams in 2020. And, there was a moment in the show that I really dove into, and it was when, the social justice was really taken on, and it was the decision to make. Are we going to play? Are we going to practice? Are we going to sit out? How was that like, with your teammates, having to go through those conversations and decide to take action to stand up for something that players, not every player maybe, but most players believe in?
Everything starts from the leaders. It works your way down. So Coach Lynn and our coach came together. We had a huge meeting at the SoFi Stadium to talk about everything. Everybody spoke out. We all spoke about what we felt about the injustice. Because everybody comes from all walks of life in sports, especially in team sports. Like, you meet people from everywhere. And I guess that's just brings everybody together. And I guess that was the main thing for Hard Knocks. We try to focus on social justice.
Yeah, and I just feel like the way you guys did it and the way you guys came together, we're watching it on television, but, you're really getting a sense of a team bigger than the sport, right? That's really what it felt like, is these issues are bigger than sport. They're way bigger than anything that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And you get a group of young people coming together to make an impact and to make a difference. It was really a special experience to be a part of.
But all sports got to come together, though. It's not just football, though. That's what we came up with. Everybody's got to get involved, not just football. Because as a football team, we're small. We're nothing. But if every sport gets involved, then we're better together, I guess.
As a Black woman in America, things, racial justice system, it's nothing new to us as a culture. And so just being able to educate my friends who keep asking questions, you know, kind of about the problems that have been going on, it's kind of amazing to see people kind of having our backs here when it comes to racism. And so I definitely have been having more of a voice this year, and I wish I would have broken out of my shell a lot earlier than 2020, but it just seemed obviously like the most fitting year to do so. It's like obviously everyone's just kind of on board here.
I definitely feel it more as being an African-American woman, just outside of softball. When I go outside my doors, nobody knows that I play softball. And so it was actually, that was kind of what I voiced going through that time over the summer. And it was actually really neat. All of my past teammates just reaching out and just saying, hey, I see you. Most of them now mothers, most of my teammates, and I'm raising kids, and I want them to see color, appreciate it, and, you know, just kind of having a different aspect, a different perspective on all of the things that were happening. So I think it just like was kind of a great time, just especially going through quarantine, and like everybody was focused on it. And I think it kind of felt liberating for me just to have those open conversations, especially.
Natasha, I think it's great that you jumped in and said something about this, because for me, you were somebody I looked up to. You played shortstop, I played shortstop, and I mean, you're a black woman, and I don't relate to that at all, right? But I admire that, like how you played, and you were in the Olympics, and like I just love being on this call with you and listening to you, because you're someone that I admired. Another person I admired was Ozzie Smith. So I think the connection in sports goes beyond any color, race, gender, everything, and I think that's really cool that we can connect in this way. So thank you, Natasha. Thank you for being an idol to everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Natasha, I'm gonna just tee you up on our second question here to start us off. And this is about the academic part of sport. What is your perspective on the connections between athletics and academics, and do you feel they overlap at all in your sport?
100% they overlap. I mean, baseball, softball, we're statistics. It's all mathematics. It's all percentages. It's all playing the percentages. Batting average, you've got to, you know, it's math. And so it definitely plays into effect. And I mean, you can't deny it. And obviously, as much as you want to just be an athlete and focus, you've got to focus on the percentages, because if you want to know why you're not in the lineup, it's because your batting average or your on-base percentage is not matching up. So you got to figure out what's going on. So you got to add up, okay, I had this many at-bats. Okay, that's why I'm not in the lineup today. So it definitely overlaps. And I think it makes you a smarter athlete, knowing all the aspects, knowing everything that the game has to offer. Like, yes, you can just be great at all the skills, but if you have a high softball, baseball IQ, it makes you a better athlete.
I think, generally speaking, when you look at all athletes, you know, someone will always ask you who's the best athlete, and routinely the same names come up in all the different sports. And I think a common theme they all have is they're all very educated. They're all very high intellects in their sport, and that's what allows them to compete at a high level. It's beyond skill. When you're looking at the highest levels, a lot of these athletes are all extremely skilled, but what separates the best from the best is an intellect. And I think what you gain in school is the ability to learn and develop those intuitive skills. So I definitely think academics plays a huge part from an early age, not just in college. I think it's really important to study hard and get a good education at a young age.
Just kind of like my own personal example, like I'm not the best athlete out there, but I do feel like I capitalize on strategy. And so you can really kind of think your way, not in the middle of the point, but between points. You can really analyze and play that kind of chess game, that kind of cat and mouse game. It's actually my favorite part of the sport, trying to line up a specific defense against the opponents that you're playing and whatever they bring offensively. So I definitely think there's overlap, and you can kind of overcome some, like, not athletic deficiencies or anything, but you know, you can highlight your strengths and try to kind of maybe avoid or capitalize on other teams' weaknesses.
Nico, I want to open it up to you. Obviously, a sport, I would say, with baseball, softball, you know, I mean, you're an individual sport in a team, right? Yours, in terms of soccer, I'd say is reactionary most of the time. How is academics important to what you do on the field?
Yeah, actually, I had this conversation with one of my friends from back home, and we were talking to these kids, and we were saying how everything in your life is connected. And if you're not excellent on schoolwork and doing your academics, you're not excellent on the field either. And I think it's all connected. And so, for me growing up too, I think it was, you know, you have to do well, and you have to care about your schoolwork, and you have to care about your academics, because that also translates to how well you're doing on the field. Because you can't decide when to take off, like take a play off, or, you know, take your focus off of something. And I think that's where I'm saying that academics are just as important as the athletics, and they're so intertwined and interconnected.
And Casey, before we move on, I'll let you jump on this question as well.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important question because, like most of us, I think playing in high school, playing in college, like, we're so passionate about what we're doing because there's just like, I think for a lot of us, there's this another level that like, hey, I want to go pro. I want to make this a living, right? And once you become pro, you really fine tune how you study the game and how you structure your life. And school that's all it is. And so for me, that was actually a big struggle coming from college to going to pro was, oh yeah, I got to do all my homework in a way. I got to like study these teams. I've got to dial in all the specific skills and what's going to make me better. And so it just goes hand in hand and with your success, you know, in your sport. And I think for me, I've had an opportunity to now be raising 4 little monsters that want to play sports all the time and seeing the structure that they put into school and how it translates. And then using that as example, say, hey, like, you know how we had parent teacher, and your teacher was talking about how well you were doing and how you were helping everyone else in class and you were getting your homework done first and like all these things. Like, there's a reason why you're doing better on the field now or on the court. It's because of these. And they start to recognize and put those things together and process that. And then it's really fun to see.
I wanted to get into to the next question, and I wanted to ask, have you experienced adversity in school or sport or both? And what advice do you have for today's youth on how to overcome said adversity?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely both. Because I play a predominantly white sport growing up, you know. I was the only black girl on all my soccer teams, you know, and in tournaments, I'd be the only black girl. And, you know, that didn't go unnoticed, you know, at times. And so classroom, most certainly. I also grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood in Glendale, Arizona. And so I feel as if I grew up as this sort of underdog. I really do like to call myself that. And I guess you could say because of adversity, I've been able to use sports as a coping mechanism. And, you know, whenever I have trouble outside of sports, I'm able to apply that in sports, kind of use my anger out there on the field, on the court, you know, whatever sport I'd be playing at that time. And so, yeah, that's like one best way I've been able to really overcome adversity is through sport, exercise, you know, and so I've been blessed and grateful to be able to fall back on that.
I feel like growing up, I was kind of told like, oh, like you're good at math and you're not good at English. And I kind of took those labels and thought that defined me. So I guess I would say to be careful of letting other people's opinions become your opinion of yourself. Because in reality, like, I was just exposed to math earlier. Like, my parents would do math problems with me for fun, you know? Like, there's so many other factors that were involved, and it didn't mean that I was good at one thing and not good at the other. It was that I had spent more time doing one thing and not the other. So yeah, I think definitely be aware of the things you tell yourself and the things that you allow other people to influence what you tell yourself.
I play a sport where you're faced with adversity almost every single hole. I embrace adversity. I think adversity is something that a lot of people are kind of taught to avoid, but I think the best athletes in the world and not only that, the best entrepreneurs, the most successful people embrace adversity. They embrace failure, mistakes. It's in those times that you learn the most about yourself, when you're the most vulnerable. And that's when you get the most growth. That's when you learn how to get stronger, how to get smarter. How can I perfect my strategy on the court? How can I play this hole a little bit differently? How can I outsmart my opponent? How can I turn that C on that math test into an A next time? I think we need to embrace that adversity and not identify by it, but use it to learn and get better. And that's what you do. And you look yourself in the mirror, and you don't compare yourself to other people, but you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, did I get better? Did I learn from that? And am I getting better? And, stay on your own course and take each hit on the chin and keep on moving.
Well, Casey, I want you to, we're going to get nostalgic. I want you to reminisce for a minute. Do you have a favorite teacher or childhood classroom memory that you can share with us? Positive memory, mind you.
Yeah. Thank you. I think there's some specific times in my life growing up playing sports. I actually started playing volleyball pretty late compared to most kids because I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I was like, I'm going to go to the NBA. Well, I'm glad that I found volleyball because there's no way I would have made the NBA. But I had a coach, one of my first coaches, Greg Whitmer, in high school, and I couldn't do anything well, but I could hand set. And that was actually, luckily, one of the hardest things to teach. And it somehow just naturally came to me. And that was I had a conversation with him after tryouts, and he really built me up. And I still wasn't great at setting, but because he saw, maybe 1 or 2 reps throughout that whole tryout, he was super positive. And it basically changed my life in a way, because he gave me the opportunity to play a game that came much more naturally to me. And just the way that he coached me and kind of developed me and cultivated me as a human, let alone as an athlete, was very significant for me in that experience, because I was able to really fall in love with the game and be surrounded by a great coach from the start. And I know that isn't always the case for most athletes. We fall in love with the game, and then coaches are kind of sometimes speed bumps, and sometimes they're springboards for us. You know what I mean? Sometimes they elevate us farther, the things we didn't think we could do. Sometimes we slow down a little bit, but then in either scenario, we're able to mentally get tougher and fall in love with the game even more. So for me, luckily, I really, Craig was a great inspiration for me, and really helped me fall in love with the game.
I think when I look back at my childhood in the classroom, I had 2 particular teachers that stood out to me. The first, his name was Vince Canigan. The second was Steph Zabek. The first was my math and science teachers in grade 7, and the latter was my math teacher in high school, grade 10 through 12. I think when I look back, they did an amazing job of captivating the student. So my 7th grade math and science teacher, they're always doing little games. We were throwing balls around the class, and, he would hand out a chocolate bar on Fridays to, just having friendly competitions, and, and you get X amount of tries based on, little things that you did throughout the week. And on Friday, you got to compete for this chocolate bar. Sometimes it'd be a couple chocolate bars, but what it did is it created more of a sense of community within the, our 7th grade. Now kids were like, they wanted to go to the 7th grade science class. It wasn't like, oh man, again, I don't want to go to English. It was like, man, I can't wait to go to that class. It's fun. It's like everybody's like a family inside that classroom. And that starts with the teacher and creating that environment. So that was one thing that really stood out to me. And then I had a great math teacher who really in high school, who, high school gets a little bit more serious, I guess, but same thing, really did a great job of engaging all the students, had great discussions. And you went in there and you were going to enjoy your hour of class. You weren't going to dread your hour of class. And again, that's just, that's teachers that make that difference. And I'm a huge advocate making sure that teachers are well rewarded, because they're the ones that are shaping and molding the next generation of kids in the academic world.
Yeah, great coaches and great teachers literally mold our lives. I mean, that's how important they can be. Natasha, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Let's hear about an unbelievable coach or an unbelievable teacher you've had in the past.
Oh gosh, that's easy. Unbelievable coach would be my college coach at UCLA, Sue Enquist. The woman honestly made me feel like I can walk on water. When I left college, I was like, why is there nobody out there motivating me the way that this woman motivated me? I feel like there was a void after I finished playing with her. I think just so much. She empowered me to use my voice. My favorite story that I tell about her is my freshman year. Super shy, quiet, I'm only child, didn't really want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to play softball, just give me a ball, give me a bat, let me do my thing. But she would make me come to her office and she would film me. Sounds kind of weird, but she would make me come to her office every single morning before we had practice, film me, tell me about my day, tell me what classes that you have today. And I'm like, why does this even freaking matter? Like, you recruited me to play softball, like, let me just do my thing. But she would always say, one day, Natasha, someone's going to want to hear your voice. They're going to want to hear what you have to say. Your opinions are valid. The things that you have to say, they're important. And so I just always appreciate the time that she spent with me just to kind of make me open up, and it's translated outside of the field. Obviously, it made me more vocal as a softball player, being able to be a shortstop, lead an infield, but also off the field, now public speaking, coaching, doing all the things. So using my voice, I'm trying, but I give her a ton of thanks.
Yeah, so I mentioned my 6th grade teacher. She might be my favorite teacher of all time. 6th grade was literally my favorite grade, like, ever. And her name's Miss Provakis, and I was terrible at reading. I was a horrible reader. To be honest, I don't even think I comprehended things reading wise until I probably hit college, to be honest. I struggled with that. I struggled with comprehension for some reason, and she worked with me. So there are quite a few tests I failed in her classroom, but she let me stay after school and retake them, but she would actually help me retake them. She'd explain each question and actually took the time in to help me because she saw my struggle.
Nico, I want to ask you the $1 million question. We're going to start with you. What was your approach when you were younger to balancing athletics and academics, and what lessons would you pass on to your current family or today's youth on how to do that appropriately?
Oh man, probably I would connect it to my game of soccer, is that you just have to trust your instincts sometimes. I don't think I had a game plan. I still am a huge procrastinator. I don't make plans, do things. I do things on time, but I don't plan to do them on time. So I think with my game, you kind of have to see the dynamic of the game. You kind of have to just feel out what's happening in the game. And I think I did that in life as well. I got things done, but sometimes I would wait too long and be really emotional about it and be high strung about it, but I would still get it done. So that's maybe not the best advice, but I would say the advice from that I have learned is that kind of how everything's connected and everything, you can't just focus on your sport or your athletics. I think for me is what I learned is that I have to understand who I am too, and be able to adapt to the things that need to be adapted. And for me, for that question, I guess I would say, understand who you are and understand that don't put too much stress on the things that are stressing you out. Almost things will get done, and trust yourself, and kind of almost it's okay if you fail. Just learn from it. It's all interconnected with that too. It's okay if you fail. Just understand that this is your present moment, but it's not your future. And your past, it doesn't define who you are. Just continue to grow and continue to learn, and continue to understand that you work hard at the things you do, and you can continue to grow and become better.
Yeah, Michael, I'll throw the always tough question of balance to you now.
I mean, my young years, I struggled with balancing schoolwork and academics. I didn't get a grasp on it until part of my junior or senior year in college, when I really actually wanted to go to the NFL. I guess just what Nico said, just all about how you feel. I mean, like, you know, when you got to focus on sports over academics or academics over sports, like you get that feeling. And just knowing when to mix both and knowing when to do both at the same time.
Well, great. Well, we'll move on to the last question, and this is more about where you grew up and where you lived. What were sports like in your neighborhoods growing up, and does it look different from what you see in those communities today?
Yeah, well, I think I got a lot to add on this one because I obviously come from a different background. I grew up in Brazil, and then the reality there is that it's just soccer 24/7 because it's in reality it's the only chance you got into becoming a professional athlete, really, you know, like you don't have a lot of opportunity with other sports, you know, and it's super tough. Like I played soccer my entire life, but one thing that maybe the kids that will be watching this, I think must be grateful for is exactly what Zach touched. You can explore so many sports and really find your passion and kind of build a career if you want to become a professional athlete one day. Build a career in what you're more passionate about or where you the best in, right? Like Casey tried basketball, but he really found what his best and world class of in volleyball, right? And in Brazil we didn't have opportunity so much because there's no scholarships for kids to go into college and still have that plan B going on. And also maybe like something that I see here that encourages so many kids to be inspired to becoming a professional athlete, actually having that opportunity to explore the sport and find your passion and then build a career on top of that, you know?
I grew up in a really small town in Canada, and I loved growing up there because, you know, all my friends in my classes they played on my hockey team, they played on our soccer team, we all played track and field together. We would all go play, you know, kick the can in the street. We'd get street hockey games going, and then when it got cold, we'd all go down to the pond and play hockey. So I grew up in a really cool little town where, you know, we just did everything with our friends. And you played all the sports with all your friends, did all your classwork with your friends. And it's totally different now. I live in Houston, which now ballpark around 7 million people live in it. So it's a huge contrast to where I grew up. You know, so now it's like you go to class with these kids, and then you go play volleyball with these kids, and then you go play soccer with these kids. So you don't really have that, I don't see that close connection that maybe I grew up with. But I see a lot of similarities. I see a lot of kids, I see a lot of kids in my neighborhood doing the same thing. They're out on the street, they're kicking the soccer ball, they're on their bikes, they're getting coordinated, they're having fun with each other. And I think that's what really the essential of sports is just bringing people together and having fun. Sure, some people get really good at them and can play them professionally, but I mean, 99% of people that play sports are never going to get paid to play it. So, you know, it's about having a good time, being social, learning to interact with other people, being able to depend on teammates, whether it's in your softball league or whether you're playing beach volleyball. And I see a lot of kids still doing that. I think that competitive drive is something that's intuitive in all of us.
Yeah, so I grew up with a tennis racket in my hand, playing with my parents for fun. And I had that example that sports are fun. Sports are what you do in your free time. It's enjoyable and a healthy habit. And it wasn't until I guess I was maybe 9 or 10, and a friend of mine was playing softball, and I asked if I could join the team. So my parents never pressured me to play organized sports, but I asked to play and then ended up playing a ton of sports. I actually played 5 sports in high school, which I think today would probably be impossible with just the rigor that's required at such a young age for so many sports, whether it's parents or coaches that are just pressuring for trying to get college scholarships. It feels like there's so much pressure at such a young age to focus on one sport and to get really good and do private lessons and be on the best travel team and, spend all this money But in reality, I think you create better, more well-rounded, more creative athletes when you have unorganized free play. And I think that that's missing in a lot of today's youth sports, and something that we could bring back and value more rest days. Like, these kids seem like they're really overworked between school and sports. I think the aspect where sports can be fun needs to come back.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I know you guys have busy lives. I know you guys have a lot of things going on in sport and life and otherwise. So thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me and to chat with so many kids out there that are interested in sport and interested in teamwork and community and just improving as a human being, because I really do believe we could all agree that sports does an excellent job at that. It makes us all better people through the teams and the groups and the coaches and everything that we move on from. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for being a part of the first annual Breakfast of Champions event. We encourage you. We don't push you, but we encourage you to donate towards the Science of Sport mission, bringing math and science to life through sport. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this, and have a happy holidays. We will see you in 2021.
From in the classroom to on the field, Science of Sport is continuously teaming up with teachers, students, and education advocates to provide engaging learning opportunities. Our teacher workshops, STEM showcases, after-school programs, summer camps, and field trip days allow us to provide students with a unique way to learn and teachers with the necessary resources to succeed in the classroom. Did you know that on average, teachers purchase 62% of materials they need for their classroom each year? And out of that 62%, teachers spend on average $600 out of their own pocket to cover the cost of these materials. Science of Sport has had the privilege of training and providing learning materials to over 2,000 teachers across the U.S. Today we recognize one particular teacher who has been a champion for our programs this past year, Miss Jennifer Lopez. As a 5th grade teacher in Los Angeles, Miss Lopez participated in our Dodgers Foundation program, our LAFC Science of Soccer program, and our LA84 Foundation Olympic Sports Workshop. During the 2019 and 2020 school year, she has introduced over 30 new teaching concepts to her classroom by applying our STEM curriculum. She now uses Science of Sport resources to make a stronger impact on each of her students and connect the lessons she is teaching to the everyday lives. As our 2020 champion of the classroom, Science of Sport is awarding Miss Lopez with $1,000 worth of classroom materials and sporting equipment to help her continue making a difference for her students. Join us in congratulating Miss Lopez and reflecting together on the impact Science of Sport has had on her and her students this school year.
So my name is Jennifer Lopez. I teach 5th grade, and this is my 9th year teaching in the classroom. My role definitely has been redefined in many ways. I feel I'm very versatile. Some days I feel like I'm a tech person trying to navigate the Zoom issues that are going on. Other days I feel like I'm a graphic designer trying to make the best presentations and PowerPoints for my students. Other days I'm a comedian with the pun of the day. The other day for Halloween I was Iron Math, so a superhero both literally and figuratively. But I think the biggest role though has been that mentor role for sure, and just meeting the students' social emotional needs, especially just with distance learning, the pandemic, and everything that's going on in the world today. I think some things that students struggle with are being able to ask for support. I think there are students who are really bold and advocate for themselves, like, Miss, I don't understand this, and they'll message me or they'll unmute. And then I have students who won't. And when I've called home to talk to parents and talk to them, they're saying, oh, I'm a little shy to share out. So I think that's one thing, just being able to advocate for themselves in this new platform that they've never had to do before. So that's one piece. Another piece is in terms of accessing math word problems. I think it was already hard in person, but now over Zoom is even harder, because before they would have the handout, they could annotate using our annotation strategy, and then we could discuss it. And now it's a piece where, I mean, I can annotate off my iPad, but it's hard for them to do it even if I provide the digital version. So I think that's another piece for them. The hands-on piece, I think, is tough. And then I would say something else that the socializing piece, being able to socialize with their peers and think per share, where it's a little harder now that since we can't always do breakout rooms without an adult in the room. Some of the materials that would definitely help with students who are struggling right now with the content, I think it would be great to get our math workbooks and have students be able to have the word problems right in front of them so they can annotate, they can show me their answer, because right now some of them are struggling even to have a notebook or paper or pencil. So I think that would be one thing, to have those notebooks, to have basic materials like pencils, like highlighters. I think that would be just beneficial to their learning. And then I would also say, other pieces, like if I wanted to implement, science of sports curriculum, having those, I know in a few weeks we'll be able to send out those work bags, the duffel bags with all these materials. That would be definitely helpful, because then they can implement the lessons that I am sharing with them. In terms of resources available to me right now, I would say we haven't had access to our math workbooks that we typically do every year, again, due to budget constraints. I know they're trying to work in supporting that, but right now everything is digital. Again, our budget right now in the school is very tight, and then these are due not only just our local budget, but just state funding and everything that's going on. But our admin has let us know that, they're working on getting us more support with tech, as well as materials to send out to students, such as the pencils, the notebooks, whiteboard markers. So the materials I'm receiving from Science of Sports have definitely helped fill the gaps of the resources that my students need, because now I feel, in an equitable way that I can give students, provide them with the Science of Sport lesson, and if they have the materials, they have access to it, right? And so I feel that each kid has an equal playing field in a sense to do it, because they have access to these materials, and they'll be able to be more engaged with this content. So my teaching has changed with the introduction of Science of Sports curriculum for the past, I would say over the past 2 years. I was first introduced to Science of Sports in 2018 with the Science of Soccer. I'm a huge LAFC fan, so when I heard about that, I was like, ooh, I have to attend. And so that really just helped bring engagement into my classroom and really bring something that's relatable to the students through sports. And so a lot of my kids play for club soccer and club basketball and baseball, and so it was cool to be able to bring now something that's relating to their lives to my math curriculum. I've been able to attend 3 Science of Sports programs. I've attended the Science of Soccer at the LAFC Stadium. I've attended the Science of Baseball at the Dodger Stadium. And I've also attended the LA84's Olympic PD. And so it's been really awesome to be able to attend all 3 of them and get the different perspectives from the different sports or units. My students are retaining more math and science curriculum when I use the Science of Sports curriculum. And I can give you one particular example with an intervention group I work with after school back in the spring before the pandemic hit. So this group, typically the students would come in, they needed to work on some math skills, and they would come in and like, oh miss, we have tutoring. And so I'd be like, nope, we're gonna learn these awesome skills using this sports curriculum. And one particular lesson was the relay races, and to increase the students' decimal and place value understanding. I had the students run around the school, pass the baton, we timed them, and then I used those times in a word problems the next week. So the students were not only more engaged, but were able to grasp the content more because it was about them. And they made those connections. And the one way I was able to gauge that was that I always give like a pre-assessment and a post-assessment with my intervention groups. And I saw the data increase. So that was really cool to see that happen, and the students were more engaged. Over the past 6 months, some of the lessons that I've taught are the numbers game. So that's one game that they can work on a skill like, dribbling a basketball or dribbling a soccer ball or running, whatever the skill they have access to or the sport skill they have access to. And they're working on fluency facts. So multiplication is a big thing in 5th grade. And so the students, when I did it in the spring, during distance learning, I got a lot of great feedback from both students and parents. Like, we want to see more lessons like this. this. Our students are definitely engaged with this. And so it was really cool and reaffirming to keep doing more science and sports lessons because of just the great feedback. And then also when I was receiving the data back, the students were doing much better in their content learning. I would say one thing I want teachers to know about science and sports is just how engaging it is. And I think oftentimes we as teachers are like, no, there's a curriculum we have to follow. You know, this is what the district gave me. But I want you to be adventurous and, you know, step outside the book, see what other resources are there and make your content more versatile, because at the end of the day, it's what is going to engage the students. And the science and sports curriculum definitely is what engages students. Some things that I would want parents to know about the science and sports curriculum in both in terms of after school activities as well as summer programs is that to sign your students up. I think it's a great opportunity for your child to practice those skills after school hours as well as during the summer to keep them busy, and it's in a fun way where the students will be bought in and they won't see it as like school. They'll see it as like, ooh, I'm learning about sports. I feel very honored, as cliche as that sounds. I definitely I'm grateful for this award for many reasons. I think teachers, not just myself, but teachers in general, the teachers at my school, my colleagues and friends, I would say we work really hard. And that's often, I feel like not recognized or over kind of pushed to the side. And I want to say that like, it's awesome to be able to recognize, because I think, I don't know, it makes you feel good. Like, I mean, I don't want to say we don't need these awards, but it's nice to be recognized for the hard work we do for the kiddos, because it's not as easy as I feel like sometimes people think. And I know that when I received that email the day that I got this award, it brought a smile to my day. I was feeling a little down that morning, and when I saw it, I was like, yes, like this is really cool. And so, yeah, just very grateful and honored. So thank you so much. I think after not being in the classroom for so long and visiting my classroom again and seeing the structures that have been put in place, it definitely is emotional. I think I miss it. It's hard to just like talk to a screen, and sometimes like, I don't want to get emotional myself, but it's tough to see, because I do enjoy what I do. Like a lot of people ask like, why haven't you moved up to administration, or why haven't you do this? I generally just love being with the kids. They light my world. And it's hard not being able to connect with them. So it definitely brings up different emotions being back here and seeing how it's gonna look and how it'll probably look like for a few years. So and accepting it and being able to adapt that way. I would say one word to describe my partnership with Science and Sports would be impactful. This has impacted my teaching in many ways, from making it more engaging, to providing students with leadership roles, to making me feel just that I'm reaching the students in different ways that just engages their interest in learning. And so I think it's just been very impactful in my teaching, and I'm very grateful for it.
Hi, my name is Cindy Trejo, and I've been involved with the Science of Sports since its very inception. And one of the reasons I'm such a proud board member is that Science of Sport aligns with my professional mission. I have worked with families and students for my entire career. As a social worker with families, and also in the schools, the school district, the State Department of Ed, and now at the university level. And one thing that remains constant is our aligned mission to really improve equity and access to youth, and really exposing them to high quality, engaging STEM activities. Science of Sport is such a great program because it does three things. First, it really engages students' imagination and helps them with their identity as STEM scholars. By getting outdoors and doing sports activities and aligning them to STEM concepts, it also creates a continuity between what's happening after school or during the summertime and what's happening in their classrooms, really bringing to life mathematics, science, technology, and engineering concepts. And thirdly, it increases a student's capacity, especially in helping them develop their agency and identity as STEM scholars. So combined, these three things are exactly what Science of Sport does. It increases a continuity between out-of-school time and what's happening in the classroom. It helps build student capacity, And also, it helps really engage students in the STEM fields. So today, your contribution means so much because it helps expand access to students all over the country and really engages their imagination, their academic identity, and helps further the goal of college going. Thank you for attending this Breakfast of Champions. We hope you have a safe holiday, and we hope to see you next year.
Thank you, Cindy, for being such a great advocate for education. You're a true testament to the critical work being done and the work that needs to continue to happen to support more students and schools all across the country. During my time working for the Arizona Diamondbacks, I realized that there was a disconnect that schools had towards sports and how they were only looked at as an entertainment component. And during this time, I was introduced to Ricardo Valerdi, who is an engineering professor at the University of Arizona. And I quickly noticed that we had similar passions and goals, and that was to help students succeed in the classroom using something fun and to support STEM workforce. So by developing a curriculum that used sports examples and aligned with the state standards, we were able to bridge that gap. Sports can be more than just entertainment, and it's an incredible way for students to improve academically. Bridges are not made by one person, and championships are not won in sports by an individual. It takes collaboration, teamwork, shared vision, and this is the same approach we hope to have with everyone that looks to support our mission. With your generous donation, you will become part of a team that has a goal to impact thousands of more youth with engaging programs and hundreds of schools throughout the country with the necessary resources to succeed in the classroom. Not only will your donation support the immediate needs for schools during this time, but it will also allow us to plan for the future to increase our impact. Today we were able to hear from an incredible teacher making a difference with her students, a student who feels more confident about academics, a coach who can provide more impactful programs at their facility now, a university STEM advocate who believes our programs address equity and access to students, and we heard from elite athletes on how they have been able to use sports to help them succeed in the classroom and in their communities. So thank you all for attending our first annual Breakfast of Champions virtual benefit. We hope these stories help show how Science of Sport can continue to make an impact with your support.